Did you know? One man has saved more than 200 people from suicide. A tick bite can make you allergic to red meat, and one man was once constipated for nearly 2 months. In today's episode, we've got 30 mind-blowing weird facts that will absolutely astonish you. Hit that subscribe button to stay connected, grab a seat, and get ready to have your mind blown. Let's jump right in. Number 1. A grizzly bear's bite is strong enough to crush a bowling ball. Those who find themselves in the presence of a grizzly bear will surely want to stay out of reach of this animal's super sharp claws. But they'll certainly also want to keep out of the grizzly's mouth, because these creatures have a bite force of over 1,160 pounds per square inch, according to the BBC. That means grizzly bears can literally crush a bowling ball between their jaws. Yikes! Number 2. It costs 2.8 cents to produce $1. Not a bad return on investment. The Federal Reserve spends about 2.8 cents to produce every $1 bill. While the $2 bill carries the same price tag, the bills get costlier from there. The $10 bill costs 4.8 cents, the $20 costs 5.3 cents, and the $100 bill costs 8.6 cents to produce. Its paper is composed of 25% linen and 75% cotton, with red and blue fibers distributed randomly throughout to make imitation more difficult. It is a much better deal than the 2.72 cents it costs to produce a penny. Number 3. Mark Antony brought sand from Egypt to Turkey to cover an entire beach for Cleopatra. Cleopatra was an incredibly powerful ruler who could indulge in the kind of luxuries others could never even imagine. For example, when she was vacation on Sadir Island in Turkey, she wasn't satisfied with the beaches. So her lover Mark Antony had the white sand that she preferred brought all the way from Egypt, so that she could enjoy it on foreign shores. Sadir is now known as Cleopatra's Island for this reason. Number 4. A German circus is using holograms instead of live animals. Animal lovers who are concerned about the treatment of vulnerable creatures in professional settings may be hesitant to attend a traditional circus. But if you still want to enjoy the majestic abilities of the animals without worrying about their well-being, you might want to get tickets to Circus Roncalli, which stopped using animals in 2018. Instead, this cruelty-free circus uses 3D holograms of horses, fish, and elephants instead of living animals to perform crowd-pleasing tricks. Number 5. Your brain's synapses shrink while you sleep. Researchers at the University of Wisconsin-Madison Center for Sleep and Consciousness studied mice to observe what happens to their brains while they sleep. Dr. Chiara Cirelli and Dr. Giulio Tononi found an 18% decrease in the size of synapses after a few hours of sleep. Don't worry though, this nighttime brain shrinkage actually helps your cognitive abilities. Number 6. The famed Typhoid Mary infected more than 50 people by cooking for them. Typhoid Mary was a real historical person who became notorious in the early 1900s. She was an Irish woman named Mary Mallon, who immigrated to the United States in the 1880s. Though she had no symptoms of typhoid fever, she carried the bacteria in her blood and could pass it on to other people. Because no doctor could convince her that this was true, and she didn't feel sick, she insisted on working as a cook. During her career, she infected at least 51 people, 3 of whom died, before she was isolated and enforced quarantine for the last decades of her life. Number 7. Kentucky has more bourbon than people. Some sources trace bourbon's origins to Kentucky in 1789. Some of these sources credit Elijah Craig, a Baptist minister, with the invention of bourbon after he aged corn whiskey. That same year, Craig opened a distillery in Georgetown, Kentucky. The state is not only responsible for 95% of the world's bourbon, according to The Atlantic, but there is also so much of it that the 4.7 million barrels in the state's distilleries outnumber the 4.3 million people living in the area. Number 8. Astronauts in space are exposed to the same amount of radiation as 150 to 6,000 chest X-rays. When astronauts leave Earth, they face a range of factors that affect them physically. That includes the intense amount of radiation that they're exposed. According to NASA, astronauts are exposed to ionizing radiation with effective doses in the range from 50 to 2,000 millisievert. 1 millisievert of ionizing radiation is equivalent to about 3 chest X-rays. So that's like if you were to have 150 to 6,000 chest x-rays. Number 9. A heat wave in California once turned grapes into raisins. A heat wave that hit Northern California's wine country Labor Day weekend in 2017 straight up turned grapes into raisins. As temperatures hit up to 109 degrees Fahrenheit, the scorching heat evaporated water from the berries and shut down the vine's entire metabolic process. It was estimated that vineyards lost up to 50% of their crop due to the unprecedented temperatures. Though September heat waves are not uncommon in California wine regions, for one to come that early in the month is highly unusual. Number 10. The world's oldest unopened bottle of wine has been sealed since the 4th century. The Römerwein, or Speyer wine bottle, is a 1.5-liter glass vessel found in a Roman nobleman's tomb in what is now Germany and dates back to sometime between 325 and 359 AD, which makes it at least 1,650 years old. No one is sure how the wine smells or tastes, due to the fact that they can't predict how it would react to being exposed to the air if the bottle were to be open. There's also the danger that after all this time, it could have become poisonous, although scientists suspect the alcohol would not be dangerous, but just taste disgusting. Number 11. For 100 years, maps have shown an island that doesn't exist. Almost nothing is known about Sandy Island, a landmass about the size of Manhattan in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Australia. Supposedly, explorer James Cook discovered it in 1774, and it began appearing on nautical maps in 1908. It wasn't until 2012, when a team of Australian scientists set out to survey the island, that they discovered there was no island there at all. The scientists guessed that Cook may have in fact spotted a pumice raft of floating volcanic stone and gas. The Sydney Morning Herald even published an obituary for Sandy Island. Number 12. Dunce caps used to be signs of intelligence. 13th century philosopher John Duns Scotus believed that a pointed cap would help spread knowledge from the tip to the brain, and his Dunsman followers wore them as a badge of honor. In the 1500s, though, his ideas became less popular, and the meaning of the Duns cap was turned on its head, becoming something of a joke. Number 13. The hottest chili pepper in the world is so hot it could kill you. The weapons-grade Dragon's Breath chili pepper is so hot it's downright deadly. If you ate one, it could potentially cause a type of anaphylactic shock, burning your airways and closing them up. I've tried it on the tip of my tongue, and it just burned and burned. Mike Smith, the hobby grower who invented the Dragon's Breath, along with scientists from Nottingham University, told Live Science. So why make such an impractical pepper? As it turns out, the chili was initially developed to be used in medical treatment as an anesthetic that can numb the skin. Number 14. Dolphins have been trained to be used in wars. Dolphins are known widely as adorable, intelligent animals. What is not as widely known is that these crafty creatures were used by the US and Soviet Union during the Vietnam War and the Cold War. Both countries studied the creatures for their sonar capabilities, but also trained them to detect mines, bring equipment to diverse, find lost equipment, and guard submarines amongst other nifty tricks. Number 15. Some people have an extra bone in their knee, and it's getting more common. If you were under the impression that the human body had finished evolving, think again. It turns out that some people have a bone in their knee called a fabella. And while this particular little bone with an unknown purpose was once fading away over the last century and a half, it's gotten more common. Back in 1875, nearly 18% of people examined had a fabella. That number dropped to 11% by 1918. However, by 2018, 39% of individuals had this mysterious bone. Number 16. Ancient Roman commoners went on strike by evacuating their cities, leaving the upper classes hopelessly fending for themselves. Secessio plebis, secession of the plebeians, is similar to a general strike, but proved much more effective as the upper classes almost entirely relied upon the working classes. Pretty much everything in the city would close down, which proved to be incredibly effective at having the peasants' demands met. Maybe this is something that we should try again in modern times? Number 17. There's an entire family in Italy that feels almost no pain. Members of the Marsili family handle injuries remarkably well, and that's because they only experience pain for a moment before it fades away. Letizia Marsili told local magazine, "I just thought of it as part of who I was. I was strong, I was resilient, I bounced back." However, when a researcher at the University of Siena, where Letizia works, noticed her unusual tolerance for pain, which is something her mother, sister, and son all share, the two decided to collaborate to see what was going on. They discovered that Letizia experiences the good pain, the pain that alerts us to danger. Then it disappears. The bad kind of pain, the chronic pain, the ongoing pain that we take painkillers for, she simply doesn't feel that. Number 18. You can calculate how far away you are from lightning. There's a, lightning quick way to figure out how far away you are from a lightning strike. Just count the number of seconds that pass between a flash of lightning and the thunder that follows, then divide that number by 5. The result equals how many miles away you are from where lightning just struck. This is called the flash-to-bang method. The National Weather Service recommends taking cover if the time between lightning and thunder is 30 seconds or less, which indicates that the lightning is 6 miles away or closer. Number 19. The modern keyboard was designed to make people type slower. The QWERTY keyboard that we all use today was invented by Christopher Sholes in 1874 for a new typewriter. Unfortunately, the keys were prone to jamming. So, as the story goes, Sholes designed the keyboard to slow typists down by placing the most commonly used letters far apart. This may be a myth. Other sources say the letter placement may be based on telegraph protocol, but at least it makes you feel like your hunt and peck typing isn't your fault. Number 20. One man was once constipated for nearly 2 months. In 1965, 26-year-old Angus Barbieri, who weighed 456 pounds, was put on a fasting program. It wouldn't be ethical to conduct a study like this today, but at the time, things were different, allowing Barbieri's doctor, William Stewart, to experiment. On a strict regimen of multivitamins and minerals, Barbieri got his nutrients without eating a scrap of food, which resulted in nearly 2 months of constipation. By the end of the year, Barbieri was 180 pounds. Note, fasting to this degree is not recommended, as it can lead to serious health conditions. Number 21. Allergy season is getting longer and more intense each year. If you're one of the millions of Americans who suffer from allergies, we've got bad news for you. Allergy season is getting longer and more intense each year, according to a 2019 study published in The Lancet Planetary Health. Likely another unfortunate result of climate change, scientists have found that pollen counts across the northern hemisphere have increased over the last 20 years, and that pollen season is increasing 0.9 days a year worldwide. Number 22. You can figure out the color of a chicken egg by looking at the chicken's earlobes. Yes, even though they don't have outer ears, chickens do have earlobes, and they vary in color, from white to much darker varieties. That's probably not that surprising, but the correlation between earlobe color and egg color certainly is. Chickens with white earlobes lay white eggs, while chickens with darker brown earlobes lay, you guessed it, brown eggs. And this doesn't just apply to the most common egg varieties you'll find at the supermarket. Araucana chickens are known for their pale blue eggs, and sure enough, those chickens' earlobes are a similar hue. Number 23. The world's most densely populated island is the size of 2 soccer fields. Santa Cruz del Islote in the archipelago of San Bernardo, off the coast of Colombia, may only be about the size of 2 soccer fields, 2 acres. But the artificial island has 4 main streets and 10 neighborhoods. 500 people live on the island in around 155 houses. According to The Guardian, with so many people packed into such a small space, it's the most densely populated island in the world. Number 24. There's a website that tracks the world's population in real time. As of today, the overall human population is estimated to be more than 8 billion people. And if you want to watch that increase in real time, you can tune into the thepopulationproject.org, which shows the upticks and downticks as babies are born and people die. You can also see the current populations of different countries. Number 25. One man has saved more than 200 people from suicide. It's a sad fact, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco is a site where many suicides take place. However, one California Highway Patrol officer has done more to combat this problem than any other individual. Officer Kevin Briggs, who battles depression himself, has personally talked more than 200 people down from the proverbial ledge throughout his career. After retiring in 2013, Briggs wrote a book called Guardian of the Golden Gate and now goes on speaking tours to encourage public discussion of suicide and mental illness. Number 26. A tick bite can make you allergic to red meat. Plenty of people have food allergies, but few are the result of an insect bite. In a strange and growing trend, some people who get bitten by the Lone Star tick can develop a sudden allergy to red meat. Beef, lamb, and pork, which are technically classified as red meat, can make people with this allergy experience headaches, sneezing, a runny nose, and nausea. In severe cases, it can cause the person to be unable to breathe. For some sufferers, the allergy fades over time, but for others, it's permanent. Number 27. A man in India had 116 iron nails removed from his stomach. When a 43-year-old man named Bhola Shankar visited a hospital in northwest India because he was experiencing abdominal pains, doctors found 116 iron nails in his stomach that were each 2.5 inches long. Luckily, none of the nails, which the man had reportedly eaten, although he couldn't give a reason as to why, had injured his stomach lining, and the medical staff was able to successfully remove them. The ordeal could have been a result of pica, a disorder that involves the ingestion of items with no nutritive value, such as soil, hair, wood, and metal. Number 28. Golf is the only sport that's been played on the moon. In 1971, NASA astronaut Alan Shepard took a few moments out his lunar mission to indulge in a quick game of golf. He hit 2 balls, and they didn't go very far. Not because of his technique, but because of science. Plus, it must have been difficult to swing the club in a spacesuit. No other moon sport has been documented, unless you count bouncing up and down really slowly. Number 29. Urea, a chemical that is found in urine, is added to tobacco products to enhance flavor. Urea, in case you don't know, is the chief nitrogenous end product of the metabolic breakdown of proteins in all mammals and some fishes. It is the main component of human urine. It's also something that's added to some tobacco products in order to enhance their flavor, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. Number 30. Laughing while being tickled is part of a defense mechanism. There's a reason why it's nearly impossible not to laugh when someone is tickling you, and it has nothing to do with the situation being overwhelmingly funny. Instead, your body is likely employing a natural defense mechanism. Scientists from the University of Tübingen in Germany found that when we're being tickled, the part of the brain that anticipates pain is triggered. Because our brain thinks we're in trouble, we might strike at whoever is tickling us, or we might laugh, which is a sign of submission. That's all for today. Subscribe to our channel for more fun videos.